Get to vote for the car they most like to take away. That gives us the best of show winner, but also gives us the decade winners. So the pre-1915 category has been won by this wonderful 1904 Fiat 2432 Open Tourer, brought to us by Shane Houlihan. So Shane, congratulations. You've won, I mean, an unsurprising winner. What a wonderful motor car. You know, not because there were so few in the category, you understand, but because it is the most special in the category. Voted for by your peers, by the other entrants, as you know. But you told us a bit about the story of this car the other day when it came up. I particularly wanted to briefly mention the fact that it was temporarily underground, wasn't it?
That's correct. It gave almost 10 years buried in the late 40s. So it's just amazing that it ever survived.
So it was buried by the owner at the time?
Yes, the owner at the time couldn't bring herself to part with the car that she bought on honeymoon. And rather than just scrap it, she decided to bury it on the estate.
And when the car was found, I hope the original owner was left behind.
The original owner agreed for the car to be dug up and to see what was left, and it was in remarkably good condition because it was buried in sandy soil.
Well, there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a motor car that needs preserving, if you find the spot where this was left, it'll be in good order for years. So,
well, I think the thing about this car, Richard, I mean, this car was good for 120 kilometers an hour. I mean, it's a true Leviathan. And look at the lovely polished brass everywhere. And they cost $9,000 when they were new. This is 1904. That's a staggering, eye-watering sum of money, even for you.
Even for me. I'm not sure I'd want to bury it though, would you?
But it's absolutely beautiful, and it's going to be possibly participating in the London to Brighton. It will be in the London to Brighton this year, so do go along and see it on the road, on the way to Brighton.
Because it's entered, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Brilliant, so congratulations. Did somebody hand you an award? Well, don't go till you've got the award. Hang on a minute.
I like these mudguards, Richard. I'd like, if this was wet, I wonder if Tim might get a little wet there. It seems like they were designed to annoy pedestrians.
I think what it was, it would make sure that the owner and passengers stayed dry while this threw all the water on the poor people by the side of the road. So, as we were saying, this spent its early life in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Having, as Shane explained, having seen the car and bought it for the honeymoon, this was shipped back to Cape Cod. And Mabel, who was the original owner, drove the Fiat with her brother for some 28 years before, when Mabel died, the car was buried with her.
And here we are.
Well, Wilhelm Schmidt, who's the CEO of our presenting partner, A. Lange & Söhne, presenting the Decade Award to Shane Houlihan for this wonderful 1904 Fiat 2432 Open Tourer, the winner of the pre-1915 category. Congratulations to Shane.
Congratulations, Shane. Well deserved.
As ever, it's not just the car that wins, it's the backstory.
Thank you. Congratulations. Chain driven. So the next car, which is the car in our 1920s Decade Award, is the 1929 Alfa Romeo 6C1750 with coachwork by Zagato. The Zagato bodied 1750 is without doubt one of the prettiest pre-war motor cars, and the smaller brother of the mighty 8C Alfa Romeo. We're going to have a look at the car in a minute, but as you can see, it's got a long louvered bonnet, flowing wings, absolutely delightful lines on this car, but you'll notice it has 3 headlights. This is a competition car for the road in its truest sense, and this actual car was prepared, Richard, by Alfa Romeo for the 1929 Mille Miglia, which it went on to win, piloted by Giuseppe Campari and Giulio Ramponi. And of course, and look at this wonderful original condition, the sound that you can hear the supercharger. It's an absolutely wonderful car. We've seen you before. You're doing lots of driving, having fun. Fold down screen, long louvered bonnet, delicate lines. The 1750 Alfa 6C by Zagato. It's interesting, Richard, that you say it sits quite high off the ground. I mean, the Mille Miglia, as you know, was a bumpy road circuit, 1,000 miles around Italy, from Brescia to Rome and back. And of course, the roads, these cars survived because they were high. They were going through potholes, they were hitting bumps in the road, and clearly having high ground clearance was useful.
Well, that's right. There's a lot of stuff under there you don't want to get damaged, but great to see it. Thank you for bringing the 1929 Alfa Romeo 6C 1750, the winner of our 1920s Decade Award. Now the next motor car, Pete, a very special motor car indeed. Well, then they all are, aren't they? And don't forget, it's the entrants who voted for the winners of these classes, and the winner of the 1930s class is this gorgeous 1931 Bentley 4.5 litre blower with very elegant coachwork by Gurney Nutting, and we're delighted that Anne Brockington Lee, the owner of the car, is sending over to be with us for the concourse. And this, of course, a very well-known Bentley model from the era. The blower Bentleys, 50 were built to homologate the car, and 5 were built to race. And this was privately owned by the chairman of the company, by Wolf Bonato, the only person in history to have won every Le Mans race he entered. He entered 3 and won 3. Other drivers have won more, but then they've lost a few as well. But Wolf Bonato entered 3 in 28, 29 and 30 and won each one. But this is a 1931 blower, one of the late blowers of the 50 built, with this unusual coachwork that has 2 seats in the front and 1 in the back, with its own aero screen in the rear. Very flamboyant styling by Gurney Nutting. You'll see these wings with the elegant turned up ends to the wings, and as we were saying, Peter, these were inspired by the helmets on the firemen at Le Mans, the Pompeur, the firemen at Le Mans.
Interesting inspiration for
inspired
that,
the shape of the tips of the wings on the Gurney Nutting coachwork.
It was quite a character, quite the sportsman, Wolf Bonato. So just briefly tell us the story of the Blue Train Bentley for those that might not know about it, the run.
Well, the Blue Train Bentley was a 1930 Speed 6 Bentley the Wolf Bonato owned, very swooping style, built in 1930. He was in the south of France with the car, staying in the Carlton Hotel in Cannes, when somebody mentioned that a rover had beaten the Blue Train from Cannes to Calais. So he reckoned he could not only do that, he could get back to London. And he did in the Speed 6 Bentley, and that of course was the winner of the 2013 Concours d'Elegance in St James's Palace, and was with us here last year to celebrate the Bentley centenary. Now, Peter, something special coming up just now.
Oh, this is the 1940s award, and this is rather unusual. This is a 1948 Land Rover. This is chassis number 1. This is the very first Land Rover sold to the public. And you'd be forgiven to ask for asking, what's a scruffy old Land Rover doing at a Concours of Elegance? Well, of course, it's not any Land Rover. This is the very first one built, inspired by the Willys Overland post-war Jeep, and christened Land Rover to Rove the Land. Launched in Amsterdam at the Motor Show in 1948, and within a year they had sold an incredible 8,000 examples. The original Land Rover, in fact, Richard, had a central driving position, so clearly inspired the McLaren F1. But no, a very, very special car. But it's the backstory with this car. This car was lost for many years. It was in a field on a farm, and discovered some many years later, and it was restored to this condition.
Yes.
They did their very best to maintain as much patina and originality as possible, just to demonstrate how well this car has survived.
And as you say, if it was restored to this condition, it must have been in a pretty poor condition before it.
I would have thought so, yes.
But the registration number, as you can see, is JUE477, so it's known as Dewey, and it was originally intended for King George VI, but it remained with the Land Rover Company, and as you say, it somehow found its way to a farm in Northumberland where it was found, and now owned by Ineos Automotive, and it's one of the inspirations for the new Grenadier. So delighted to see it. Thank you very much for bringing it, the winner of the 1940s Decade Award. Peter, a particular favourite of yours coming up. This is the 1950s award winner, and this is this gorgeous 1958 BMW 507, one of only 253 examples built, presented in a desirable spec, including the original Rudge centerlock wheels and finished in very chic colours. And as you were saying, you know, Elvis Presley drove one of these, so did John Surtees, even Ursula Andress drove one.
But today, the present drivers are more important than all of those because they've won a prize at the Hampton Court Concours of Elegance. So congratulations, and very beautifully dressed, and you suit the motor car. As you say, it's a V8, it's a rare car, you know, tall centre-lock Rudge wheels, and I think it has a real muscular styling, and that V8 motor produced a decent amount of power. They were fast cars, and I think it's the detailing, like the ivory-coloured wheel on them. You know, this is a glamorous motor car. This is a car for the Riviera. This is a car for California. A very, very glamorous and sexy motor car, and beautifully presented and fittingly attired.
So thank you for bringing this wonderful car.
Congratulations.
This is the winner of the 1950s Decade Award, ladies and gentlemen, the 1958 BMW 507. Delighted to see it. There's a great backstory for this car, which I won't tell you now because it will take too long, but go meet the owner, hear about the backstory. A lovely romantic story to that car.
Well, Richard, the winner from the 1960s is the 1965 Ferrari 275 GTB Competizione Caliente with the owners John and Jeanette Corrie. And we should remember, we've talked about battles between Ford and Ferrari for outright victory at Le Mans in the 1960s. But further down the field in the GT, lower down the pack, these cars were racing, and these are the cars that, based on a road car, but with many, many features developed by the factory for competition, outside fuel filler. It's more powerful, it has a lightweight aluminium body, external fuel filler, and what people are really attracted to on these cars, Richard, are these louvers in the sail panels and behind the wheels here for venting and cooling. But it's a very rare car. There were only 10 of these cars built in this series, and in fact they were so successful that Ferrari went on to build another series called the GTB-C, which had magnesium, and it was developed in the works competition department. But with with 275s, they come as a 4-cam, and they have a long nose. This is the short nose configuration, the purest of the breed, and it's absolutely stunning. Thank you.
And the last of our Decade Award winners, as voted for by the entrance, is this 1970 Ferrari 365 GTB4, also known, of course, as the Ferrari Daytona, owned by the Gilbert Smith family, Peter.
Well, I think this is a car we should actually christen ourselves and just call it Bertie, because
I think so.
With its plexiglass headlight. I mean, the Ferrari 365 GTB4, also known as the Daytona, or commonly known as the Daytona, it's a V12, it has 6 carburetors. This is a very rare colour in this viola, and it perfectly suits Bertie. It's an early car, Richard, because it has the plexiglass rather than the pop-up headlights. But of course, it wasn't called the Daytona, but it became known as the Daytona following Ferrari's first, second and third finish in prototypes at the 1967 Daytona 12-hour race. So another car that's gained its name from Ferrari's racing victories. And wonderful owner, you've seen him around. He's fully responsible for making sure all the cars get around safely and are presented on the stage. Head of the marshals, and Bertie, Gilbert Smith, beautifully driven.
Well, congratulations, Bertie, our racing car with a racing driver. Delighted to see that was voted for by the entrance to be the winner of the 1970s Decade Award. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the Decade Award.